Our lab does not do the orders. They don't.
What if I have a prescription? Can you do it then?
We like you're asking Amy to give you a script.
No, I can get a prescription from another doctor to have it done. Will you
Mercy
test?
Labs do not do that.
See here, when I talked to the other person from the Mercy Health, they told me it was because under this the guidelines of the CDC.
Who did you talk to from Mercy?
I talked to whoever the lady is on that you call and you get the automated
call center.
Yeah.
Oh, they're from Cincinnati. They have no clue what we're doing. I can tell you that right now.
Well, I'm just telling you that other
Yes.
people got tested for this, and
They didn't do it through a Mercy lab. Okay.
Okay.
Who would give you the script?
Dr. Chai said that he would write the scripts out for us.
Who's that?
Dr. Chai.
Yeah, I don't know who that is.
He's from town here. He's over there, and he's from Pennsylvania. But he says that he'll write me a prescription for it. It's finding somebody that'll do the test.
Okay.
Because I have it on video about the EPA guys saying, that they're opening the tracks up too much at a time, and when they come up the north side of it, they're going to open it up in smaller increments. I can't leave because I have foster kids. I can't go relocate, and I can't get tested. I'm still, Amy put me on antibiotics for 2 weeks, and I'm still sick. I'm like, I had blood coming out my ear. I've got bloody noses. My sore throat. My lungs are completely damaged. I'm going to get a CAT scan on that. I have a nodule on my lung from before because I got asthma. And, Lori come down here, my fiance, and she was tested for chemical dermatitis is the diagnosed, not the thing.
Right.
And it's like we're like 200 yards away from this, and I can't find nobody that'll test for the benzene, and the vinyl chloride.
You live with your family. You said you have some foster children. Very close.
I had 3 before this, and when we went down the first evacuation, I'm a treatment facility home. They had some behaviors and were removed from my home. These were kids I had for 3 years. 3 years. The one all I had to do was go to court and sign the adoption papers.
Wow. And you said they were removed because
of behaviors. You know what? It was because we were taken from our home. The home was a safe place. I have cameras in all the common areas in my home. That's why they was taken. They keep on asking me, and under HIPAA law, I can't really go into too much detail about it, but they keep on asking me down at the help center why was they removed. And I keep telling them because your train derailed. And that's all they needed to know.
Right. So 200 yards, the train is basically on your property.
It's 0.3 miles. The immediate symptoms were your eyes were burning, nose running, sore throat. The headaches were excruciating. Still to this day, if I leave town for a couple hours and come back in, I have splitting headaches again. It's like we went to Florida because we had our house, the inside of it tested through JS Held. When I came back from Florida, or when I was in Florida, the second day I was there, it was like a detox. I got so sick. I slept for 24 hours. My body was shaking. I was in cold sweats. I couldn't leave the hotel room. After a while, I started feeling better. And then when we came back here, as soon as we got back into town, we both had headaches again. And, Lori, which is my fiance, started getting rashes again. So I started getting worried. She has myasthenia gravis, so she has an autoimmune disease already. She has a pacemaker and defibrillator. Her rashes is anytime she touches any surface, she gets a rash. She was very active. This has made her almost bedridden. She's tired. You start losing like memory loss, short term. Your eyes are burning. It's the same thing. Everybody, and this is what kind of pisses me off about it, that they're using the stress as the same symptoms as what we're feeling. But they're not adding that we have a chemical taste in our mouth like a metal. They're not adding that, I'm sorry, my eyes don't burn from stress unless I'm tired and been up all night. Now I want to sleep all day.
Right. And the whole town didn't altogether
Yeah,
get
we all
stress
don't got the
related.
same stress level. You know,
Right.
it's like, don't play games with me. I've been to the EPA office. I've spent probably 4 or 5 hours there. I went to the new clinic. They gave me an attitude when I asked them to read my results, because when they sent me my results, I didn't know what it said. So I called the Columbiana toxicologist, because the ETPA gave me the number, and he was like, "If you're testing positive for it, that means you're being continuously exposed." I said, "Well, this goes against everything everybody's saying."
Right away, it's very clear that there's some bureaucracy going on here. They said, "Oh, well, the number you called, that's Cincinnati. They don't know what we're doing, blah, 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 blah."
Yeah.
Let's play the next clip, Colin.
There's nothing to test for. There's a certain time frame they're telling us it has to be done.
But even if I'm paying for it out of pocket, even though there's a certain time frame, why can't I still get the test just at a good?
You know what? I'm going to have you talk to one of the nurses.
Okay.
If it's a daily exposure, there's no time limit.
Because
You were just exposed.
well, that's the problem I'm having here. We're being exposed daily, so they don't want to take. They know that it's out of your urine.
If they're saying it's a time frame from exposure, if that's what it
So
is.
what if I pay for my own test and I don't care about the time?
What's interesting to me is the woman says they're saying that you have to test for it right away. They, we'll find out later, is the CDC.
Every time it was they.
Yeah.
They. That's what I heard.
Yeah, but the thing is, that is under the assumption, because vinyl chloride metabolizes very quickly. Within 24 hours, it can be. So they're assuming that, well, we're not going to test people a month later, or in your case, 2 months later, because if they got exposed, it would not show up already. That's under the assumption that they're not continually being exposed, which I don't think the CDC would know, because the CDC is not doing testing, and the EPA's testing, as we've shown, I wouldn't put a lot of stock in it.
It's inadequate. It came from the supervisor of the EPA's own mouth. It's inadequate.
Right.
Testing at 0.1 VOC is inadequate.
Right.
So they come in and they say you're home safe.
Lewis has talked a lot about this in his reporting, but at a community meeting, I think at the end of March, an EPA official basically acknowledged that the equipment they're using to test, he was saying specifically for butyl acrylate, but Lewis's reporting shows it's for other things too, that their equipment is actually not capable of picking up certain levels of the contaminants that they call low, that even if they're low, can still cause health problems. Let's play the EPA official acknowledging this.
The machines, both the machines that were used in the homes and the machines that are hanging on the telephone poles, some of those are multi-gas meters where we can see hydrogen chloride and carbon monoxide, a bunch of other gas sensors. But they also have that photoionization detector, which is that volatile organic heater. It goes down to 0.1 parts per million. Now, the problem with that is our vinyl chloride action level is the long term was 500 parts per billion, which is 0.5 parts per million. So just above that level of detection, right? The butyl acrylate is after the emergency phase, we drop that down to 20 parts per billion. So we can't see that lowest level of that machine. All right, that's important. But you can smell butyl acrylate at much lower levels. So yes, there is a chance that chemical could be present, and we don't see it with that machine. I mean, you need to understand that, right? Butyl acrylate, butyl acrylate's an irritant, right? And it can cause some of the symptoms that people have presented. If that is what's causing it, I don't know. But again, we can see to a certain threshold with those machines.
But every time we go, they say something about it. They spoke your test, your house tested with this little machine, and it's like, and I know for doing my research, that machine doesn't mean anything anymore. It really doesn't, because if they go below that 0.1 level, your flooring, your walls, your paint, your plastic, everything throws off VOC.
That's right. That's right. So it only tells you if you have a serious problem, right? So what I would be concerned about.
Death. That would almost be death at 0.1.
What I'd be concerned about with volatile organic monitor is the vinyl chloride, because the vinyl chloride is a cancer-causing agent. You don't want that. You don't want the exposure to vinyl chloride, right? If you have a low-level butyracrylate exposure,
I'm winning.
we did. We got it. If you have a
Everybody
low,
come to my funeral in 5 years, thank you.
if you have a low-level butyracrylate exposure, it's an irritant, right? It's not going to cause any long.
So there's so many things with that. First of all, if you have a serious problem, well, what about if you have a medium problem? What about if you have a low-level problem? Because for some people with autoimmune issues, asthma, older.
So far, we have the EPA's full of shit. Now we have the CDC's full of shit. So it goes on further where we can prove NS is full of shit. So and now our health care providers are full of shit. So who do we got to turn to?
So I think this is really important. It's a crime that this isn't being reported in the media because, I mean, at the end of the day, people cannot make decisions for themselves and their families if they don't have real information.
Yep.
And that's not just East Palestine. This is everywhere. We're going to talk about Indiana later. Let's play the next clip, which is more direct, that they're saying the CDC is telling them not to do the testing.
Okay, so we actually just were talking to the doctors and that. So they have to go by whatever Mercy's telling them. Unfortunately, we're not getting answers either.
Well, see, here's the thing, and this is me being honest. I called up at Mercy Health up in Boardman. They told me that it's the CDC guideline that I cannot be tested for it through Mercy Health because of their guideline. Okay, so if it comes out of my pocket and you're my healthcare provider, you guys are my healthcare provider, why can't I pay out of pocket even though that I understand there's a timeline for this, but I'm still being exposed because I'm 200 yards away from it?
Yeah.
Why can't I have that test done if I pay for it out of pocket?
So they have not got the okay from higher up. See, we're just in office through them.
I know where
unfortunately.
you guys are at.
We're not getting all the answers either. All we have been told is that Mercy, the whole Mercy system, and you're right, it is everywhere. Mercy is everywhere. Why aren't we getting answers? I don't know. I can't answer that.
Here's
All they're
what I
saying
was
is
told
the
by
same
this
thing as
lady.
CDC.
Here's where the CDC also gave you guys that guideline not to do that.
So all they said was that the CDC doesn't recommend it, and that it now, from just speaking with our doctors that are here today, they said that, it has to go through who your provider is. So whoever your provider is, we could send them a message and see if, but we can't do the testing here. We don't have the.
No, I understand that, but can I get a prescription from my doctor from here to get that done, and I'll pay for it out of pocket?
And that's what we just discussed. We would have to. Who do you see here?
Amy.
So she's not here today, so I didn't get to get her, her opinion or whatever she's.
Because I know it costs $600 to get this done.
It's very expensive.
And I
yes.
don't care to pay it because the CDC is saying that there is a time frame, and I feel that they're holding us back from us because that we're going to test positive in our urine, and there's no time frame there.
Like I said,
I'm not killing the messenger at all.
I know we don't have all the information yet. This is all new to everybody, So
I gotcha.
But
I just don't see how some facilities smaller than Mercy Health is testing for it.
Well, you gotta especially here, we're not a full-on lab, so especially here, we can draw for blood. But even when the doctors try to go in here and search up those tests, they don't come up in our system.
What if I went to the Mercy Health in downtown or Boardman? They're still not going to do it, right?
So we have all the same system. So I'm just telling you what our providers just told me.
All right. That's a little bit longer, but the core, we're not being, we're not getting answers. All we're being told is the CDC. CDC recommends not testing for it. Very interesting, Eric, because with COVID, their guidance, their recommendations, you couldn't miss it. You go to their website, it's right there. Their Twitter, it's right there.
I called the CDC. I called the CDC myself after this, and I asked to talk to somebody from the CDC. I got hung up on.
Why are they just assuming there's no vinyl chloride exposure a month later, 2 months later? There's weather changes. Toxicants move with weather and other patterns. So the fact that they weren't testing in the beginning, the fact that they weren't testing a month after, your test was 2 months later, highly, highly questionable. But then you get to that they tell you the CDC's saying they're urging us not to. I want to read from a chemist what he told me also about your test. So this is Eric's test. So under vinyl chloride metabolite, thiodiglolic acid, hope I'm pronouncing that right, 0.60 mcg/ml. So the reporting limit is 0.50 mcgs/ml, and thiodiglolic acid, that is the marker for vinyl chloride exposure that you metabolize. So that's what you look for. The creatine level is not really the exposure level. The thiodiglolic is the exposure level. So you're at a 0.60. So I want to read what a chemist told me. I spoke with 2 other people too, but I just got the screen comments from him. So the thiodiglolic acid, that's what TDGA in urine, cannot be attributed to vinyl chloride exposure with absolute confidence. There are many factors that affect the timing and degree of TDGA in urine. So a single snapshot of urine TDGA cannot be used to measure the magnitude of exposure. It does, however, indicate a recent exposure. Let me repeat, recent exposure to toxicants that result in you went too fast. Result in TDGA metabolites. So I consider the CDC recommendation to be flawed and uninformed at best, negligent and cynical at worst. Keep going. Perhaps that the CDC representative thought that the TDGA would be undetectable by this time, or that if it was detected months after the disaster, it could not be attributed to vinyl chloride exposure. What they may not have considered is the possibility of subchronic exposure to vinyl chloride or vinyl chloride degradants, such as, and I'm definitely going to botch this, so sorry about that, chloroethylene oxide, chloroacetylene, or chloroacetic acid. Keep going. There was 0.60 mcg/ml in this resident's urine. If we assume all of the TDGA was from vinyl chloride exposure, best case assumption, 100% of vinyl chloride ended up as TDGA, that's the thiodiglolic acid, also best case assumption, and that the TDGA levels were at a steady state, not a best case assumption, but the single snapshot of urine level and complexity of vinyl chloride pharmacokinetics demand this assumption, then 0.60 in urine indicates exposure of 200 micrograms of vinyl chloride per day, far beyond the threshold of toxicological concern limits employed for pharmaceuticals. So that's important. The chemist is saying your levels are far beyond what's considered acceptable. And by the way, most of these levels and what they claim are acceptable is bullshit, as Aaron Brockovich explained last week. While not a smoking gun, these results strongly support the notion that East Palestine residents have been subject to subchronic exposure, translated to dumb it down, consistent exposure, continued exposure to vinyl chloride and vinyl chloride degradants from water, soil, and on in surfaces and structures. Vinyl chloride and vinyl chloride degradants are not chemically, physically, biologically persistent like dioxins. So the levels can be expected to wane over time, along with the degree of subchronic exposure. But this urine sample was taken more than 2 months after the disaster. Although there are many factors that modulate the pharmacokinetics and rate of elimination of vinyl chloride in humans, it is not so variable that urine TDGA in early April could reasonably be attributed to exposure in February. It is clear that exposure to the vinyl chloride or vinyl chloride related compounds is continuing today in subchronic fashion. There's more to that, but I'll just leave it at that for now. So Eric, a lot of complicated words, but what the chemist is saying is this happened in February. If you're testing at elevated levels in April, that means you're still being exposed.
Well, we'll go back what that supervisor of the EPA said in that same meeting, that he's opening up. They was opening up too much of it at a time, so they're going to come up the south track at smaller increments. We'll also go back to him saying that after 2 months, it dropped from reporting rate from 0.5 to actually 0.2. So it's a little more severe than, I found this out from the Columbiana County, toxicologist about him saying about the 0.5 to 0.2. After 2 months, it should, they lowered it for residential.
Right. And by the way, paraphrasing from Erin Brockovich, a poison is a poison is a poison. I have seen in my reporting in Flint and elsewhere, the levels that they say are acceptable for whether it's lead or vinyl chloride or ethyl hexyl acrylate or chloroform or chromium or name your toxicant. It's most of the time not actually based on public health. It's based on other things. The doctor shared that he agrees with you that it should be
And it was
tested for.
alarming what he says.
Yes, it's very alarming what this doctor says. In fairness, I don't think they knew you were recording, but at least he tells the truth. So I'm not slamming the doctor who agreed with you, but it is alarming that what he said, because he basically said, I agree with you, and they're not doing it because they don't want the truth to come out for political and legal reasons. Let's play the next clip, Colin.
He wants us to go ahead and send a message to Amy and see if Amy would be willing to write him just the script that he can take to one of the places that are able to test.
Because
what do you want to test for?
Vinyl chloride and benzene.
Okay.
I already had my baseline done, and my liver enzymes are high.
Oh, okay.
So I live 200 yards away from the tracks.
Terrible thing, isn't it?
What happened is the CDC gave the guidelines to Mercy Health, because I already found this out, that about the testing. Okay, so I called the CDC yesterday, and the lady hung up on me because you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I'm questioning it.
Well, there's nothing with Mercy Health. They don't even test for any of these things. The CDC says there's nothing to be tested. That's what they told us right along, and I talked directly to the EPA.
But who are they to play God that I can't be tested for my own provider?
I agree with you there. So that's the question.
I'd agree with you there. And that's a good question. So he's agreeing with you. And he's saying the CDC is the one telling us not to test. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's play the rest.
So I'll tell you one other story about this. See, I contacted LabCorp.
Okay.
See, we're doing things behind the scenes here. And I said to LabCorp, we contact a regular representative. Then I talked to the head of the division for he was the head of Ohio LabCorp. And I said, these people want to be tested. They want to be tested for something here. What am I going to test them for? There's vinyl chloride, there's this. Well, we don't have a test for this. We don't have a test for that. We don't have a test for that. And I said, well, what do you have a test for? Well, he said you can test for benzene. I don't know what that's going to get you, but you can. And you can test for vinyl chloride. They do have that. Or ethylene chloride. Or you want for vinyl chloride, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So you can do that. So I said, well, can we do that? How do we do this and this and that? Oh, I don't know. I'll have the president of the chemicals division call you. Well, the president of the chemicals division can never call me. And then there was something about, somebody said supposedly that the politics are mixing in there, that they don't want to be testing for these kind of things because they're involved in the lawsuit.
This is what I was telling her. I got the guy on the EPA sitting there saying that they opened up too much at a time, cleaning up these railroad tracks, and now they want to come in and do it on the north side in smaller increments because they're releasing too much chemicals in the air. Yeah. Then I also have him on there saying when they came into our home, they're testing at 0.1 VOCs. Okay, that's not sufficient when they're in the billions. You know what I mean? So they're saying that it's safe.
Do you have an appointment, Dr.
Yes.
Okay. They're ready to check in.
Oh, okay. So they're saying that the test at 0.1 VOCs is not sufficient. I got the guy from the federal EPA saying this to me. We had a unity council.
Right, I understand.
They're saying that it's unsafe, but yet I'm bouncing around and I'm getting sick.
So we're hearing the politics is mixing into this, and they don't want to test for it because they're involved in a lawsuit. I don't know if he's talking about the CDC or the EPA. The EPA sued Norfolk Southern. As far as I know, the CDC is not involved in that lawsuit. Regardless of who he's talking about, he's basically saying this is political, and for legal reasons, they don't want to test.
You know, we're getting these papers in the mail every single day. And
Yeah.
this is about the testing. It says there have been no health risk detected by any test conducted by the government or independent labs. Now they're so full of shit. You know what I mean? Because the independents are saying way different than what they're saying. And this is the stuff that's going into people's head that they're putting in our mailboxes every single day. The same way they put in our mailbox every day that this is stress-related symptoms. Now I know
Yeah.
the damn difference between stress-related symptom and
Right.
you know what I mean. It's like it's the biggest crock of shit. No, they're saying your pimples. You know, I sent my test results to the mayor. I have showed him pictures of my fiance's test results. He looks at it, and I can't even get a common courtesy of a kiss my ass from him.